Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Muskan Punia, and I'm a research intern at the ICS. I am honored to serve as the master of ceremony for today's event. It brings me immense joy to extend a heartfelt welcome to each one of you for another enriching session of the ICS Wednesday seminar titled Conundrum of Inter-Korea Dynamics, Historical and Structural Context. A recent assessment suggests heightened tension on the Korean peninsula with claims of Kim Jong-un's inclination towards war. Over the past 2 years, North Korean activities, especially missile development, have clashed with South Korean President Yoon Suk-Yeol's stance, leading to a tit-for-tat response. South Korea insists on reciprocity from the North, backed by military readiness. However, historical patterns show fluctuating trends in inter-Korean relations with phases of confrontation and reconciliation. Understanding these dynamics requires consideration of broader East Asian regional dynamics. The seminar aims to explore inter-Korean relations within a broader framework of its history, regional dimensions, and bilateral dynamics. The speaker for today's seminar is Sandeep Kumar Mishra, who is an associate professor at the Jawaharlal Nehru University, New Delhi. He is also an honorary fellow at the ICS, New Delhi. The areas of his research interests are the North Korean nuclear issue, international relations of East Asia, East Asian security, Asia-Pacific security, and more. He has published several articles and book chapters in Indian and East Asian academic journals and contributed opinion articles to many reputed newspapers such as Korea Times, Times of India, Indian Express, and many more. The chair for today's session is Ambassador Skandranjan Tayal, who is currently the chairman of India Republic of Korea Friendship Society. After joining the Indian Foreign Service in 1976, Ambassador Tayal served in Indian missions in Sofia, Warsaw, Geneva, and Moscow. He was the ambassador of India to the Republic of Korea during 2008 to 11. Ambassador Tayal has broad experience in bilateral and multilateral diplomacy and has been a frequent speaker on contemporary affairs. He regularly writes for academic journals and the Asian Age. Before I hand over to Ambassador Tayal, I would request all participants to adhere to some housekeeping rules. During the presentation, all participants will be muted. You may post your questions in the chat box. Alternatively, you may raise your hand during the interactive session. After the presentation, you will be called upon to unmute yourself and ask your questions. Please remember to mention your name and affiliation while posting your questions. That's all. I now hand over the floor to Ambassador Tayal to take the proceedings forward. Over to you, sir.
Thank you very much, Muskan. And I join you in welcoming all the participants in this afternoon seminar on Conundrum of Inter-Korean Dynamic, Historical and Structural Context. While my friend and colleague, Dr. Sandeep Mishra, will try to peep into Chairman Kim Jong-un's mind, we make some observations on the changing regional equations in Northeast Asia. And perhaps the first one and an important one has been the growing trilateral partnership between US, Japan, South Korea, assiduously promoted by successive US administrations and from Obama downwards, and which led to this 18 August 2023 meeting in Camp David, where President Biden hosted both President Yoon and Japanese Prime Minister Kishida, and that led to the spirit of Camp David, which could be a game changer in that region and also perhaps in the Pacific. Because this the document, the spirit of Camp David, it expresses concern over China's dangerous and aggressive behavior. It calls for peaceful resolution of cross Taiwan Strait, etc. So in many ways, it expands the collaboration between these three countries, security collaboration, from Korean Peninsula, Northeast Asia to perhaps entire Indo-Pacific region. And that will have some consequences. And the relations between China and South Korea have not been good under President Yoon's watch. And in May 2023, in radio program, Chinese ambassador said in Seoul, and I quote, frankly speaking, the current relationship between China and South Korea is not good, and there is a risk of further deterioration. Unquote. But there are questions. Is this shift in Korea-Japan relations towards some degree of warmth or understanding is sustainable? And whether this would last a change in presidency in Seoul, in Korea, because President Yoon's approval rating is only 34%, with negative assessment by 59% of Korean population. And National Assembly elections are due in South Korea on 10 April 2024. Then the second other emerging relationship is the Russia-North Korea relationship, perhaps with blessings from China. Chairman Kim Jong-un's visit to Russia in September 2023, and he had visited a satellite launch station. And there are reports that North Korea has transferred missiles and shells to Russia, which are being used in the Russia-Ukraine war. And the South Korean intelligence assessment one I saw was that the contract is for 1 million shells by North Korea to Russia, which would be worth about $24 billion. Well, that is an estimate. And today's report said that President Putin has gifted a car to Chairman Kim Jong-un, and of course, President Putin has agreed to visit North Korea. So this is another relationship emerging. And in the background of very strongly anti-Russia stance taken by Japan and Republic of Korea after Russia's intervention in Ukraine. Open support for Ukraine, and both President Yoon and Prime Minister Kishida had attended the Madrid and Vilnius summits of NATO. And the third trilateral is, of course, China, Japan, South Korea, that was dormant for a while, 2-3 years. But the foreign minister did have a meeting in Busan in November 2023, where they agreed to prepare for the next trilateral summit. Let us see what happens. But maybe there is not much in that till President Yoon is there. So with all these changes happening and in the region, one can make certain trajectories seem to be a little predictable. One, that Russia's defense partnership with North Korea will continue to become stronger. Two, Russia's economics and strategic partnership with China would also become stronger. Another trajectory could be North Korea's steady enhancement of its development of ICBM and the delivery systems, whether underwater, submarine-based, etc. Then, the present freeze in North and South Korea relations, whether that can see a change. On that, we'll all hear Dr. Sandeep Mishra. Now invite Dr. Mishra to speak on this. Go ahead.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, ICS, for inviting me. to this Wednesday seminar. I think it's a very important platform where lots of important discussions are held, and I have learned a lot from this platform. Today, I have been assigned to speak about inter-Korea dynamics and what are the contexts in which this dynamics had been played out. Actually, as you can see in my abstract also, I proposed this topic after having read an article written by Robert Carlin and Siegfried Hecker in 30th North news website, actually run by Stimson Center. So 11th of January 2022, this article was published. And this article said, I quote, "The situation on the Korean Peninsula is more dangerous than it had been at any time since early June 1950. And Kim Jong-un has made a strategic decision to go to war." Unquote. So it was quite interesting assertion by two scholars who have been watching Korea for a very long time. Especially Siegfried Hecker is supposed to be a very, renowned nuclear scientist, and he had been to several times North Korea through IIA, through other channels, and he had some understanding about North Korean nuclear and missile programs. So I think it was quite alarming, quite you can say. And then on, there have been several articles, sometimes supporting this assertion that North Korea has taken a strategic decision to go to war, and sometimes contradicting with this assertion, saying that no, even though situation is bad, not good in the Korean Peninsula, still North Korea hasn't made any strategic decision to go to war with the other players. Why this kind of things are happening? Actually, when I wanted to make a presentation about inter-Korea relations, the first thing which attracted my attention was that there have been so many harsh, very thrilled statements from both the sides. For example, I've just collected few of them, which are more recent actually. Suppose from North Korean side, on 2nd December 2023, North Korea issued a stern warning to the US that any interference with its satellite operations would be perceived as declaration of war. On 20th December 2023, North Korea's Kim Jong-un warned of a nuclear attack if provoked with the nukes. On 15th January, Kim Jong-un said, "We don't want war, but we have no intention of avoiding it." 15th of January this year, Kim Jong-un, in a speech at Supreme People's Assembly, he announced there will be a constitutional revision referring to South Korea as the principal enemy. 21st of January this year, Kim Jong-un again warned that his country will not hesitate to launch a nuclear attack if an enemy provokes it with nukes. So these are some very strong statements coming out of, and these are just glimpses of them. Actually, they are coming almost every week from North Korean side. Sometimes leader Kim Jong-un is making that kind of speech. Sometimes his sister Kim Yo-jong is making that kind of strong statements. And this is quite, you can say, unsettling for many scholars and many policymakers. From South Korean side also, I can give you two examples. Like July last year, US and South Korea combined, they said any nuclear attack by North Korea against the United States or its allies is unacceptable and will result in the end of the North Korean regime. 22nd July, I think South Korea warned North Korea that any nuclear attack from the North Korean side would mean an end of the Kim Jong-un's regime. 26th of September 2023, South Korean President Yoon Suk-Yeol, he warned North Korea that its regime would be ended by Seoul and Washington if it is going to use nuclear weapons against South Korea. December last year, again, Kim Jong-un was threatened by South Korean statement saying that, look, you will be doomed if North Korea uses nuclear weapons. That kind of statement from both sides are really very, you can say, alarming, and I think they give a very gleam picture of inter-Korea relations. If I look at the activities also on the Korean Peninsula, suppose from North Korean side, what happened in last few months, if I have to tell you that actually in 2018, there was a Panmunjom declaration. There was a summit meeting between leaders of South and North Korea, and both of them, they signed a joint declaration. And this created a liaison office at the Kaesong city in North Korea. But June 2020, North Korea destroyed that liaison office. June 2020, North Korea not only destroyed the liaison office, they also basically cut off all the communication line which was established, including direct hotline between the top leaders of South and North Korea. Last year, November, they had military satellite launch, and they had also, I think, several. I think if I have to tell you in brief, I don't want to go into details right now, but in 2022, North Korea had around 80 missile tests, and in 2023, they had 40 missile tests, and 40 missile tests included 5 intercontinental ballistic missiles, including Hyosan 18, which is a solid fuel missiles, ballistic missiles, and which can go up to 15,000 kilometers. So these are the, you can say, furthermore, I think if you look at North Korean activity, you can see that, like say, January, like this year, January, Kim Jong-un was very aggressive on his references to South Korea. He said that, we are not going to have, you can say, we have been now giving up the goal of reunification of Korean Peninsula. And for us, South Korea is an enemy country. Not only that, in early January, actually 5th of January or 6th of January, North Korea also had hundreds of artillery shells. They were thrown to South Korean, you can say, water in the western coast, northern limit line, that area. And they threatened, actually January 2024, they also said that North Korea would not hesitate to thoroughly annihilate South Korea if provoked. 14th of January this year, they had a new solid fuel IRBM. IRBM is intermediate range ballistic missiles. This was basically first ballistic missile test on January, 14th January 2024, this year. And they are planning, actually, they are also, 19th of January, they had also what is called HEL, a nuclear powered drone, underwater drone actually operation. They also tested something. It's called HEL. HEL, I think, HEL, some 5 or say, some number is also there. So you can see how North Korea has been quite, in activities also, they have quite, you can say, aggressive. And if you look at South Korea, then also I think from South Korean side, especially after Yoon Suk-Yeol came to power, the new president, current president of South Korea, when he came to power, he, from the very beginning, took a very tough posture towards North Korea. He was very keen that even actually during presidential elections campaign, he said that he would like that America should reintroduce tactical nuclear weapons on Korean Peninsula. He said that we may think about going nuclear by our own. He also said that Korea would be happy if they are invited to join Quad membership. Though all these things haven't happened yet, but you can see that December 2022, within, I think, 6 months, he was able to have his own, like South Korean own Indo-Pacific strategy document. December 2022, it was released. He also, in 2022 and in 2023, he participated in 2 NATO summit meetings as an observer country. Actually, Japan had been doing it, but it was very strange and very new for South Korean president to participate in NATO summits. So overall, I think he is having a very clear understanding that South Korea needs to improve and augment its relationship proximity with United States and even Japan. And in the process, even if there is some gap happening between South Korea and China relationship or South Korea and North Korea relationship, it's an acceptable cost. In May last year, as Tyal sir also mentioned, that he visited America and both the leaders, Biden and Yoon Suk-Yeol, they had a Washington Declaration. And Washington Declaration, largely two important things happened. One, that Americans, they said that, look, you don't have to make your own nuclear bomb. We are going to provide you extended nuclear deterrent. So we are going to provide you nuclear deterrent in case of any emergency emanating from North Korea. And not only that, in all the, you can say, nuclear issues, both the countries, they decided that they are going to have a joint nuclear consultative group. So I think it's a very, very important moment for South Korea, because during Trump's presidency, South Korean policymakers as well as people, they were slightly apprehensive that what kind of commitment America would have in case there is any crisis on the Korean Peninsula, and whether South Korea should rely on America or not. I think Washington Declaration of May last year really, you can say, assured lots of South Koreans. In August 2023, it was again a very, can say, welcome development from South Korean and American point of view, when they were able to have a trilateral Camp David summit. Japanese leader, South Korean leader, and American leader, they were able to meet there. And they talked about what kind of new sanctions could be put on North Korea, what kind of, you can say, close cooperation we could have on. And I think overall, you can see they have enhanced their military cooperation. The most recent, I will cite that 15th to 17th January, 3 days this year, South Korea, Japan, and United States, they conducted what is called largest ever trilateral naval drill, which basically was participated by more than 9 very large destroyers, including American USS Vinson, some Carl Vinson. So it's a very tit-for-tat, and I think that kind of approach from both the sides. So I gave you several statements from North Korean side, several statements from South Korean side. I gave you activities from North Korean side. I gave you some list of activities, and these are just selective few of them. There are a number of them, which in case anybody wants to discuss in details, we may take up. But I think if I have to evaluate the current situation, I will say that, look, yes, activities and statements are really problematic. They appear to be very sharp and alarming. However, if you read them carefully, especially statements, I think both the parties, they are basically making those statements conditional. Means they are not saying that we are going to do this. They are generally saying that we are going to annihilate South Korea if South Korea does ABC. So that kind of conditionality is always there in statements of both the parties. That is really important to underline. The second thing I will say, that if you look at activities of South Korea and North Korea, again here, I think if you are well versed in the idea of security dilemma, it's a classic case of security dilemma, that through your military argumentation, you want to enhance your security prospects and your security standing. And in the process, basically, your opponent feels that they are insecure. They also try to secure themselves. And in their process of getting them secured, you feel insecure. So it's a kind of spiral which is happening between two parties. So my assessment, in case I have to can say on the basis of contemporary reality, contemporary, you can say, statements and activities of both the sides, if I have to tell you the present evaluation of situation, I will say that, look, a war on Korean Peninsula, because remember, I told you about that statement that war, like Kim Jong-un is having, he has already decided, he has already made a strategic choice to go to war. I'm saying that it doesn't appear. War through plan is doesn't appear to be very realistic or imminent on Korean Peninsula. However, I would also like to add that, but war through an accident is very much possible. War through a kind of miscalculation is possible. War through escalation of any of these joint military exercises or some other, you can say, nuclear tests, missile tests. I think they may escalate. So I'm not saying that war is impossible on Korean Peninsula right now in short, you can say, near future. But I'm saying that it's not going to happen through a plan by North Korea or say South Korea, United States, because both the parties, they are aware about red lines. But yes, it may happen. And if we don't understand the historical and structural context of this inter-Korea relations, I think it would be insufficient to comprehend this inter-Korea dynamic at present. And that's why I decided to talk, you can say, have some debate, some discussion about the, you can say, historical and structural issues in inter-Korea relations. The first thing I would like to say that, look, if you have to talk about original sin, what happened in the beginning? And that was basically Korea got divided. So biggest problem in Korean Peninsula or say inter-Korea is that they are divided country. They are divided country, but basically they are same. I think Korea is both the Korea. Now I think after more than 70 years apart from each other, things have slightly changed. But overall, they are very, you can say, monocultural, ethnic, you can say, lingual. So it's a very, they are one people. But unfortunately, foreign powers, for their own convenience, they decided to divide Korea. And what happened that a division which was externally imposed on Korea, gradually the political parties, political leaders in both the sides, they basically internalized them. They understood as if they are basically rival of each other. Yes, unification that Korea must be united, that remained a formal goal of both the states. And even people in both the country, they wanted to get, I think, united. But overall, if you look at the course of history, you can see in politics, the way politics played out, the way Korean War happened, 1950 to 53, both the Korea, they had to go through a Korean War in which millions of people, they died, and whole Korean Peninsula was infrastructure and most of the industrial facilities, in ports, roads, railway, everything got destroyed. So not only that, even say indoctrination also happened. Like more and more people, they started, they understood that they were taught by education, by society, that the other one is a country which is basically creating lots of problem for us. So basically a kind of enemy country, enemy rival country, that kind of image is also being through educational and other, you can say, socialization process in both the Korea that was created. However, still the important like that all of us, we are one, that kind of things, they remain very strong in both the Korea. We don't know much about North Korea, but of course in South Korea it was there. Now, I would also like to, so this is one that divided Korea had a history, and that is one of the problems which we feel that we need to underline. Now, the second problem is, I think most of people may be aware about this, but I would like to underline another point which I keep on underlining, that inter-Korea relations are bilateral relations, of course, two countries and their relationship, but they are not bilateral alone. There's something more beyond bilateralism. As I told you that since Korea was divided by outside players, actually the relationship of South and North Korea last 70 years and even in the future is going to be hugely influenced by at least regional power, like US, China, Japan, Russia, what kind of role they play. Actually, I'll tell you in detail later on, but I think suppose from 1998 to 2008, 10 years, South Korea had a very progressive government. They had a policy towards North Korea of engagement. They wanted to have more exchanges with North Korea, and many things could happen in that period. But unfortunately, America was not supportive of that. Like Bush Jr. came to power, and then most of the things they got derailed. So many people say that it's a failure of South Korean engagement policy. But other scholars, other people, they try to justify that no, it's not failure of South Korean engagement policy, but basically there's a triangular, you can say, relationship. So since North Korea and US relations got deteriorated, it has its impact on South Korea and North Korea relations. So anyway, I'm saying that this is a kind of not entirely a bilateral relations, and regional players, they are much more involved. And actually, in Cold War period, I think many of you have also read Victor Cha work on this like US, Japan, South Korea, this triangle, and he has conceptualized something called quasi-alliance. There's just three countries, South Korea, Japan, and America on one side, and the other you can say North Korea, USSR, and China, and both of them they were contesting throughout the Cold War period. So I'm saying that it's a very important to underline the second point that Korea is basically it's a bilateral inter-Korea relations. There's a one part of bilateral, but there are more beyond that bilateral. Now, if I have to summarize, suppose I wanted to tell you some basic, you can say, timeline of inter-Korea relations so that you can keep some, like 1948, we know that August 15, Republic of Korea, that is South Korea, was born. 9th of September, we know DPRK, Democratic People's Republic of Korea, that is North Korea, was born. 50 to 53, June 1950 to July 1953, we know that Korean War happened. And 53 onwards, even if they had armistice agreement normally is not a peace agreement, it's basically just a truce agreement. So 53 to 1971-72, there was no dialogue. Actually, my Professor R.R. Krishnan used to tell a very interesting that 53 to 72, North Korea, South Korea, they had confrontation without dialogue. And after 72 till 1991, they had confrontation with dialogue. So basically saying that 53 to 72, there were hardly any connect between South and North Korea. And there were many, you can say, problematic things happen. I don't want to, can say, tell everything. Suppose Blue House raid happened. North Korean commando, they reach up to almost presidential house of South Korea. They also, through a Japanese, like a Korean who was staying in Japan, through him, they tried to assassinate Park Chung-hee when he was making a speech in which his wife died. So many bad things happen in between those countries. But I think no connect between these two countries and people of these two countries. 72, something good happened in the sense, first time a joint declaration was released between South and North Korea. And that declaration is very, very important because if you read the declaration, at least three important points were made. One is that the goal of reunification is supreme. It's beyond any system, ideology, or government. Two, they said that this unification must happen through a peaceful manner. And three, that no foreign intervention, no external intervention should be allowed in the process of reunification of Korean Peninsula. So it was interesting. It happened through Red Cross societies. Then I think lower level government officials, they participated. But this also was one of the, you can say, incident. No, like say, follow-ups were really, really poor, and finally it got fizzled out. When 1990, I think, let's say like late 1980s and early 1990s. We can see that again there's a kind of can say some activities from both South and North Korea, because it was like Cold War was coming to an end, and they were looking for different kind of equations in regional politics. Like South Korea, they established relationship with uh, China and also USSR. So lots of changes were happening in this watertight trilateral two quasi-alliances. Now, both Korea, they got admission in also simultaneously they got admitted to United Nations. They had a declaration saying that Korean Peninsula must be nuclear weapons free. All the tactical nuclear weapons, they were withdrawn from southern part of Korea. So many things happened. But here I would like to emphasize another agreement after 72, 1991, which is called Basic Agreement. And Basic Agreement between Inter-Korea also re-emphasized that South Korea and North Korea, they are for without any external intervention, peaceful manner, reunification. That goal is still very, very important. Unfortunately, in 1990s, the North Korean nuclear issue got actually quite overwhelmed, and I think inter-Korea rapprochement was slightly got sidelined. It's also happened that Americans, when North Korean nuclear issue emerged, they directly started dealing with North Korea. And South Korea, especially President Kim Jong-un, he was slightly unhappy that they felt that probably South Korea is getting marginalized. But anyway, nuclear issue became very important, and that's why inter-Korea rapprochement was not very, you can say, strong in that period. The most important change, I will say, after division of Korea till now, the most important change happened in 1997, 98. 97, a president whose name is Kim Dae-jung. He was a Nobel, can say, laureate. He got Nobel Prize for Peace later on. So from the very, like say, he started politics from late 60s, and he had just two important uh, um, electoral agenda. Thing to bring democracy in Korea. So democratization of Korea was number one, and two, having good relationship with North Korea was number two. These were the two important. He had so many other things, but two important goals which he, and when he came to power, 1998 February, he started his term. He started a policy called engagement policy. It's called sunshine policy, and he continued that sunshine policy for almost 5 years. And then the next president, fortunately, again from the same political ideological background, Nomu Hyun, he also carried forward. So when I think uh, almost 10 years, so 1998 to 2008, we see that South Korea is making engagement efforts towards North Korea. But unfortunately, or rather incidentally, as it happens in any democracy, South Korea also, the change of government and the opposition party, which is called Conservative Party, which generally prescribe a very strong posture towards North Korea, they came to power. So 2008 to 2017, we can see that Lee Myung-park and Park Geun-hye, two presidents of Conservative Party, they ruled Korea. And in that period, whatever good things happened between 1998 2008, those important gains were basically, many of them, they were lost in that period of containment which South Korea adopted. In 2017, again, progressive President Moon Jae-in came to power, and next 5 years till 2021, he had another era of engagement, and we'll talk about that. So, and 2022, present President Kim Yoon Suk-Yeol, and he has a policy that, look, we are not going to compromise with North Korea. We are like say we are going to. I use the word tit for tat, in the sense there was a time when North Korea made a missile test, and the same day similar missile tests were done by South Korea also. You know, North Korea makes military parade on its establishment foundation day. Last 2 years, I think last year especially, in whole Seoul capital city, this military parade was done by South Korean president also. So I'm saying that he's saying that, look, we are going to reciprocate you. We are not going to be generous towards you and say that you are something. So overall, I think this is the broad picture of North and South. Let's say South Korea approach towards North Korea and inter-Korea relations, understanding from this point of view. Now, if I have to summarize, the idea is basically that how to deal with North Korea, whether we should engage or contain, whether we should, you can say, push North Korea to the wall, or whether we should engage North Korea and try to help it to move out of this problem. So if I look at this question has been fundamental in case of South Korean policymakers and South Korean people also. So if I have to locate it in their domestic discourse, actually somebody told me that there are two Korea. Somebody told me in South Korea that there are two Korea. I said, yes, there are two Korea, North Korea and South Korea. He said, no. I'm saying that in South Korea, there are two Korea. And basically what he meant was that South Korea is also quite a divided country, especially in reference to how to deal with North Korea, how to deal with Japan, how to deal with the United States, what should be relationship with China. So on all these foreign policy issues also, there's a generational gap. Like say the older generation people, they are normally conservative political ideology. They are basically more in one region, Busan region, and they have a different opinion about how to deal with North Korea. And there is another group in South Korea, which is basically slightly middle range people, like say younger people who come from Chola province, this like Channam, actually Chola Pukdo and Chola Namdo and all this area. They are basically progressive party working for democracy and all those things, human rights. These people, they say that, look, we need to engage North Korea. So this dilemma in South Korean policy making is that, look, actually fundamentally I will say that actually they have different understanding of the problem. Actually conservative, they feel that, look, North Korean regime is problem. So whatever engagement you have, whatever you good policy you have, is not going to bring any result, because the basic source, the system itself is problematic. So what they feel that they should somehow, you can say, somehow we can get rid of this system, North Korean system, Kim Jong-un regime. The problem is nature of North Korean regime. Progressive feel that, look, whatever be the nature of North Korean regime or Kim Jong-un or say Workers' Party of Korea, the thing is that we don't have any say in that. Basically, ultimately, it's going to be decided by North Korean people. So what we can do is that we can try to change their behavior, their provocative statements and provocative actions, because they are too dangerous. And that is the thing which we need to address. So this is the fundamental, you can say, difference between the two different groups in South Korea, and that is reflected in political parties and subsequent presidents. You can see the history. When progressive presidents they come, they engage North Korea. When conservative presidents they come, they try to be harsh and hard to North Korea. But ultimately, the point is that in the whole process, ultimately, it's a kind of oscillating between engagement, sometimes containment, something. And we know, actually, sometimes somebody told me, and I feel that there's a wisdom in his statement. He said, look, either of these policies may have affected, but they may have been, you can say, giving some result. But the problem is that all these policies, they need to have some gestation period. They need to be pursued for certain times, 20 years, 25 years, 15 years. So some, let's say, a longer period of time, these policy must be consistently pursued. But unfortunately, in a democracy, we don't have liberty of that. Government, they change, and so the policy. So I think this is the big problem. And if you look at the recent dilemma, apart from this neat and clean divide in South Korea, the younger generation in South Korea, actually people who are in 20s and early 30s, they are creating a third group actually. The third group is basically, this is the group which is not interested in North Korea. they have no connection with North Korea. They feel that already, suppose in South Korea right now, the unemployment rate is around 2.2%. Let's say around 2%, 2 to 4% it happens. And no, sorry, I think around 4% now. So it means that it's slightly high in case if we compare it with the previous years. So they feel that any reunification or goodwill relationship with North Korea, if it brings any kind of problem to us, then I think we need to be careful about that. So this is the situation, and South Korea also had to deal with another problem. I will say that inter-Korea relations, I told you that there is a triangle, at least triangle. There are many multi-angle. I told you that all the regional players are important. But think about South Korea, US only. South Korea and US, sometimes they have to coordinate their policy vis-a-vis North Korea, and then only they can go forward. But unfortunately, if I take 1993 till this time, normally it's a very strange, you can say, coincidence of history. Most of the time, when conservative president is there in South Korea, America, they are having a democratic president. And when Democrats are in power in America, then Korea is having conservative president. I can show you a picture in case you are interested. Just a minute. Where is share? Can you see this picture? Can you see this? No?
No.
Okay, leave it then. I think so. So okay, so leave it. So I'm saying that there's a mismatch. So what happened then when South Korean president they want to engage North Korea? Unfortunately, American president they are saying that no, we need to be tough towards North Korea. And like when South Korean president they are saying that we should be tough to North Korea, then probably there is some movements happening between US and North Korea. So this is also a very interesting turn of, you can say, situation in history, and that also. Now, when I say that inter-Korea relations, these are important variables, I would like to also talk about regional dynamics. But as I told you that look, at this point of time, North, like say, Korean Peninsula is a divided country, you can say, political space. There is North Korea, there is South Korea. There's a contest between them. And if I look at the foreign players like China, US, Japan, Russia, I think all of them, they are happy with status quo. None of them actually are, say, for example, United States. United States, many people say that it has a region to be in East Asia, citing that there is a problematic North Korea. If North Korea is not there, I think they would be having very weak argument to say why they are going to be there in, because openly then they have to say that they are going to deal with China. Right now, I think they say that China is, you can say North Korea is problematic, and that's why we want to have THAAD system, terminal high altitude air defense system. They want to stall in. They want this. They have already did it in Japan and South Korea, and the reason is that you need to have a justification is that North Korea is there. So I think both in US and China both, and all the players actually, but US, China especially, I will say, there's a phrase somebody used that they want a lukewarm Korea. Lukewarm means they should not be, the inter-Korea relations must not be very hot because then it's going to be detrimental to their interests. At the same time, it should not be too cold and peaceful. Then also it's not going to serve their purposes. And that's why it's a very, take for example, Japan. Japan is also not very interested in how much good relationship inter-Korea have. Actually, time to time, there have been novels, there have been television series, there have been other, you can say, comic books and other things, which are basically saying that what happens if Japan attacks South Korea or say North Korea, and then suddenly all these are fiction basically, but fiction also basically shows us how people they are looking at Japan, South Korea, North Korea. So Japan feels that right now Korea is a divided country, 50 million people in South Korea and maybe 27 million in North Korea. If they are united, they are going to be 77 million. 77 million is a good chunk because Japan population is also 130-40 million. So then Korea would be a bigger country, having lots of natural resources from North Korean territory and having some kind of technological and capital powers from South Korean side, and it could be a formidable country. So I think, so I'm saying that overall, all of them, they are not interested, including North Korea, because like North Korea, they know that this point of time, if any good thing happen, if suppose reunification happens, this is going to happen on the condition of South Korea. And especially their political and military elites, they are worried that if it happens, the unification happens, and there are chances that we could be put into jail, like crime against humanity, so many other things could be. So I think it's a very tricky situation, and they are not very much interested. Now, this is the picture from South Korean side or this side. So let's take a slight, you can say, brief look at the North Korean side. From North Korean side, I will say that look, North Korea till mid 70s, they were doing better than South Korea. But after, like I say, from late 70s onwards, you can see that gradually South Korea became quite ahead of North Korea, be it economic capacity, be it technological capacity, be it actually political clout. If you look at how many countries they are recognizing South Korea and having diplomatic relationship with South Korea, there's no comparison with North Korea. And so economy also, suppose economy, like right now, North Korean economy, if you take, I think, less than 50 billion. So overall size of economy is less than 50 billion, whereas South Korea, it is. So all these created a kind of, you can say, fear psychosis in North Korea. And in last few decades, actually, they have gone for what is called ultimate weapon, nuclear weapons and missiles. If I have to summarize in very brief, I have to say why North Korea is looking for nuclear weapons and missiles. I will say there are some important reasons. The first important is that they had an ideology of Juche. Juche is basically an ideology which is roughly, you can say that's a North Korean variety of socialism. And in this Juche idea, they had two important goals. One is that they need to have independent foreign policy and they need to have self-reliant security. Actually, they did not want, because late 60s itself, you know that USSR and China, they had some distance, some kind of gap in their relationship. So North Korea says that, look, we are going to be having more careful, more, you can say, self-reliant in our security, and we are not we are not going to allow any of these, be it Soviet Union or China, to dictate internal affairs of North Korea. So nuclear and missile weapons, basically, you can basically connect it with the quest of North Korea to become self-reliant in security. Self-reliant because, as I told you, that late 80s, early 90s, North Korean economy was doing very bad. Actually, early 90s, 1995, 96, Korea had many, you can say, multiple drought and flooding, and there are estimates that around 10% of North Korean population they died. Almost 2 billion, more than 2 million people of North Korea they died in those years. So in that situation, when you are going, the gap in conventional weapon capacity is growing, then probably you go for nuclear weapons, and that could provide you some kind of assurance. So this security is very, very important part of their quest for nuclear weapons and missiles. The second important reason for they are going nuclear and they are making lots of, you can say, big, you can say, expenditure on that. Because actually, if you look at North Korea's any indicator, maybe economic indicator or say human development indicators, actually everywhere North Korea is not doing good. But somehow, actually, I had chance to visit North Korea and I talked to few people, though I don't know how much they were able to tell their true feelings. But whatever they said, I realized that they are very proud of their nuclear missile program. So in a way, North Korean regimes legitimacy also comes out of these nuclear and missile capability. Because when you have nothing to show to your own people, you are basically underlying and making propaganda that look, we are a very strong country, like a Kanguk, like say a very strong military and very strong economy. They are not able to do that still because they had a Dhangjin policy. But so legitimacy is also domestic legitimacy is also derived from their nuclear missile program. And as we know, it's a matter of pride. But North Korea also tried to use it as bargaining tool. I think if you go to North Korea, there are many posters here and there. So like one of the posters, I had that picture, but I think I could not show you that. The slogan is "Take pride as nuclear state and march forward." That kind of sentiments that take pride as a nuclear state and march forward. That kind of sentiments are there in North Korea. And because of that, I think we know till 2017, North Korea, they had 6 nuclear tests. In case interested, we are going to talk about that. And I told you how many missiles they had. Like, till now, they have been able to test more than, I think, 400 missiles of different kinds, including ICBMs. So in case that is required, we'll talk about that. And especially in Kim Jong-un period, the missile launches have been very, very frequent. And that's basically a very, in the Kim Jong-un period, they have also changed something called nuclear doctrine. Now they say that now we are nuclear state. But actually, it happened early, like 2012 also. They changed their constitution and they put in preamble itself, they said that North Korea is a nuclear state. They are saying, they also mentioned in 2022 that look, our doctrine, one of the point in their doctrine that it's irreversible, means we are not, actually deliberately they put it into their constitution that look, this is irreversible and we are not going to roll it back. And they also said that we have right to preemptive strike kind of thing. So anyway, all these things have been there. So if I have to, like the last part of my presentation, if I have to say that what is the state of intercorrelation right now, I will say that look, North Korea derives its security and legitimacy from nuclear missile program. So you need to at least security and legitimacy. So how you are going to solve this problem? How you are going to, you can say, do something? For example, I may suggest that suppose if we can, let's say, if suppose 5 other countries in the region, like South Korea, United States, China, Russia, and Japan, collectively they can assure North Korea that there will be no nuclear or any kinds of attack on North Korea. We are not going to intervene in you, because actually it's very strange, but many of us may not be aware that North Korea has been asking for no you can say no military intervention treaty kind of thing. So no military action treaty from United States they have been looking for many decades, but America has been reluctant to provide that kind of security. So a collective security of North Korea could be, and that may probably be able to make North Korea think again. The second important thing, legitimacy, I told you, domestic legitimacy is also very important. And my basic assumption is that actually right now, the legitimacy of North Korean leader Kim Jong-un comes from this thing that they are a very strong military and very powerful and very aggressive country. But if I look at Park Chung-hee, South Korean president who was an authoritarian ruler, but under him, economic growth was phenomenal in South Korea. Similarly, if I look at, say, Lee Kuan, like Singaporean prime minister, under him also, he was an authoritarian ruler, but his legitimacy also came from fast economic growth and development of the country. So in case somehow a situation could be, a framework could be evolved in which North Korean leader, he gives up his legitimacy deriving from nuclear and missile programs or provocative military actions, and rather he shifts to new source of legitimacy that could be economic growth and development reform in North Korea. I know that these are not simple options. I think the problem with, in the case of like how we deal with North and North Korea especially, is that all the options are imperfect. So we have to think about like who could be the most workable option in these all imperfect options. So I will say that this could be an engagement appears to be providing security, providing, you can say, a framework of legitimacy. For all these, I feel that engagement is very important. Connect is very, I'm not saying that you accept North Korean demand, but at the same time, this would be no use, this would be of no use if you cut off your relationship, communication with North Korea, which at present South Korean administration has done. For example, I can give you, there have been several let's say many summit meeting between South and North Korean leaders. 2000 happened, 2007 happened, 2018 two times they met, three times actually they met, April, May, and September. In June 2019, at the Panmunjom village, not only South Korean leader, North Korean leader, but even American leader. So there was a kind of trilateral small meeting, June 2019, between Trump, Moon, and Kim. And there have been two Singapore and Hanoi meeting with. So engagement means leaders are meeting. Not only that, there are other, you can say, repercussion, like say other, you can say offshoot, other, you can say, benefits of those engagements. Like I told you that engagement happened, joint declaration happened, and Khesan industrial complex was built by South Korea and North Korea. Mount Kumgang tourist project resort was established by South Korea, Hyundai Asan Group in North Korea. Multiple rounds of family reunion happened between South and North Korea. And so many layers, actually, North Korea and South Korea, they got connected. Actually, they got connected so much, you'll be surprised to know, or maybe few of you may be knowing, but there was a year when North Korea's top, like number one trading partner was South Korea. So I think all these things have been very, very important. And apart from that, if I could, I had another picture I wanted to tell you, that if you look at North Korean nuclear missile test and engagement and containment policy, you will see that clear cut. When engagement is there is very, very, you can say, limited nuclear missile tests. When engagements are not there, containment is there, North Korea goes for many nuclear and missile tests. So I think this is the dilemma which we have. So the final point I would make, the concluding remarks I would say by saying that, look, if we follow the current inter-Korea relationship and we follow the lots of sounds and activities, we may understand part of this problem. But I will say that we need to be we should be much more informed about the history, culture, ethnicity, language, so many other variables which basically make one Korea divided, and how this division had been basically manifested in all those 7-8 decades. So if we understand all of them, then we can understand intercorrelation. And apart from that, the second variable, which also I would like to say, so history and basically the context background must be known. And the second, I told you that structural things. Structural, why I say that, look, in North Korea, there's a structure of policy making. There's a military elites, political elites, North Korea, their interests and how they have certain choices to make in a certain situation, given situation. In South Korea also, it's not that South Korea is a monolithic entity. South Korea is also a dynamic entity which has several different governments. divided people on this policy option of engagement or containment. So all these basically, and for example, even external players, the way they are located in this inter-Korea context. So all these things must be kept in mind to understand. And I will end by saying that, look, inter-Korea relations is problematic, but overall, the context and everything, they say it's a complex, but still I will say that it's not that dangerous as it is projected by lots of media houses in India or say Western countries, where they try to trivialize anything related to Korea, and they want to have more views and more, you can say subscribers. So I will end myself here, and I'll be happy to listen to your comments, suggestions, and questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor Mishra, for this very objective and realistic assessment of where the North Koreans are and the situation in the peninsula is. And I agree with you that there is no danger of any imminent war there. Because whatever one says, but young Chairman Kim Jong-un has shown himself to be a very shrewd strategic practitioner,
Yes.
right from 2012 when he came into power, real power. And his objective is the regime security, his own leadership. And denuclearization of Korean Peninsula is now a fantasy. I think talk should be about some kind of arms control rather than denuclearization. And I would say that even unification is a fantasy because this is not an objective of Chairman Kim Jong-un and on in South.
Sir, if you allow me, actually, it's a very interesting unification. Conservative political forces in South Korea, when they come to power, they talk about reunification. Whereas progressive, when they come to power, they talk about good relations with North Korea, because they know that reunification is basically going to annoy North Korea. So actually, they know that reunification is a very distant possibility. That's why deliberately they put reunification tax and all those proposals to annoy North Korea. Progressive, as you said, they say that, look, we need to have good relations, normal relations with North Korea first, and then we will see what happens.
Yeah, Muskan, please take over if there are any questions in the chat box, or if anybody wants to ask a question, please raise your hand. Muskan, please take over.
Yes, sir. Currently, there are no questions posted in the chat box. I request all the participants to please take this time to ask questions. So, there is one message in the chat box. It's from Gagan Hitkari. He says that considering how North Korea has left the rhetoric of reunification post the ninth plenum claiming that South Korea has sought absorption of the North irrespective of the administration and policy, do you think inter-Korean dialogue is possible, or are the channels of diplomacy between the two Koreas closed for the foreseeable future?
Again, at the last line, could you please reread it?
Do you think inter-Korean dialogue is possible, or are the channels of diplomacy between the two Koreas closed for the foreseeable future?
I think Gagan's question is important, and I feel that, yes, I think recently Kim Jong-un made a very, you can say, in the, like, say, ninth plenum, he talked about that issue, that now North Korea is giving up the goal of reunification, and now we are basically going to treat South Korea as what we call principal enemy, the main enemy. But I think these are not very substantial. Anyway, I think, but it's not easy. The North Korean ruling alliance, North Korea, the Supreme People's Assembly, if you look at Supreme People's Assembly, which was National Assembly of North Korea, in Supreme People's Assembly, a coalition is basically in power, not Worker Party of Korea alone. There's some small parties also. And this coalition is called United Front for the Reunification of Korea. So are they going to dismantle that also? There are different platform, different declaration, different places where this reunification word and reunification group is there. So I think they have started doing it. So probably they will try to do that. But ultimately, by saying that you want reunification or saying that you don't want reunification, you are not going to change the fundamental structural reality which is there. Korea is a divided country. Two people, they had no reason to get divided except two ideologies. So I think in that sense, it is not a very, probably North Korea is accepting that any future reunification of Korea is not going to happen on our terms. So that's what I could give credit to. Future negotiation, like saying in foreseeable future, definitely the relationship is going to be strained. But when the strain, the relationship becomes more and more stressed, I feel that somehow this also gives opportunity for players to play and get into a new start. For example, when everything was looking very unpredictable and difficult for both the party to come to negotiation table, last week suddenly Fumio Kishida, Japanese Prime Minister, he made a statement that he would like to go and meet. He would like to have a summit meeting with Kim Jong-un. And Kim Jong-un's sister, Kim Jong-un, she made a statement that he's very much welcome to come and meet our leader. So I don't know. So it's a quite stressed situation, but some point of communication may begin. But if they happen, when they happen, it could not be said with any certainty. Thank you.
Muskan, anything? Anybody else?
No,
Wishing
sir.
to comment?
No additional questions as of now.
Only one thing. At one point, you said that people want to get united. Two things. We have these polls in South Korea. So, what is the um, percentage for unification now? And second, about nuclearization of South Korea. What is the popularity percentage? And if you have any figures for that?
Sir, about getting nuclearized, the latest figure by Gallup poll says that around 67 to 70% people in South Korea, they say that North Korea should have their own nuclear weapons. However, I will take every figure with some caution because the way questions are constructed, the answers vary. So we don't know what question they ask. So, but ultimately, I think at least this much we can say that more than 50% of South Korea right now, they are quite okay with South Korea acquiring its own nuclear weapons. Coming to reunification, yes, when I was saying that people in South Korea, like say almost everyone wanted reunification, I was basically talking about 30 years back. In last 30 years, the new generation has come up. They are aware about, because according to one estimate of Korea Development Institute, KDI, it happened in 2008-9. They said that around the cost of reunification would be around 3 trillion US dollar. So who's going to pay that money? So especially younger generation of South Korea who are having their own problem, economic scarcity or job problem and other things, they will not support this kind of, and that's why conservative government, they had a reunification jar they created, and then reunification tax also sometimes it was debated. But I think so younger generation, they are quite reluctant about that. But and any figure, I will say that I don't have any real figure right now. If I have, I will send it to you, sir. But I think it is less than 50% people who support.
There is another question, Muskan, in the chat box.
And one more point, sir, I wanted to say that even if South Korean people in a questionnaire or in a survey, they say that they don't want reunification. But if you discuss, debate, and talk to them for 2 hours, suppose, the thing is, they know that they have in common ancestry. they know that our destination is going to be like, we could be divided for another 50 years, but I think ultimately we belong to one people kind of thing. So that common identity part is still there in deep down them, in their mind and their heart. So more than 50% saying no unification, but still inside their you can say psyche, they do feel some connected with North Korea. It's a slightly complex. That's what I try to understand. Yeah.
Sir, there's one more question in the chat box. It's from Lakhan Bale. He asks, given Trump's popularity and if he is elected in the upcoming elections, do you see a chance of revival of talks summit again?
It may happen, Lakhan, but I will, I will try to question your basic premise. Trump last time when he came to power, he did not start engagement with North Korea. If you remember, from 2017 early, whole 2017 you can see, because 2016 November elections happened in America. January he started 2017. Whole 1 year he had a North Korea policy that was called policy of maximum pressure. He was putting secondary boycott on North Korea. So it's not Trump who led to engagement with North Korea. It was Moon Jae-in who came to power in 2017, mid 2017, like say May 9th election happened, and May 10th, immediately he got into office, 2018. So then I think 6 months, last last half of 2008, Moon Jae-in was basically trying to connect. And then Pyeongchang Olympic happened in 2018 February. Then North Korean delegation came. So I'm saying that engagement with North Korea happened not because of Moon Jae. Actually, I can tell you 2017, 15th of August, it's the foundation day of South Korea. And he was so unhappy with the way Trump and Kim Jong-un, they were both making strong statements, saying them dotard and whatnot. So he made a statement saying that no country in the world, no entity in the world is allowed to wage a war on Korean Peninsula without South Korean permission. In a way, people they read that he was not saying it to Kim Jong-un, he was saying it to Trump, that please don't make those strong and provocative statements. You can't start a war on Korean Peninsula without us. So I think if Trump comes, I don't think engagement automatically comes. But yes, we know that Trump is very, you can say, unpredictable. So he may do anything. He may take a U-turn. He says that this time he will come out and say that I'm going to talk to. Because you remember the third meeting which he had, two meetings he had. One had in Singapore, another he had in Hanoi, and then what he had February 2019 he had Hanoi, and then June 2019 he went to attend the G7 meeting in Tokyo, or Japan somewhere, and without any announcement he just landed to South Korea and went to Panmunjom, and there he met his third time Kim Jong-un. So all unpredictability are there, so he may do that. But I'm not very helpful. The problem, Lakhan, I will say that if we have to trust Kim Jong-un and Trump to bring peace on Korean Peninsula, I think it's not telling about good situation. Thank you.
Right, sir. Thank you.
There's one more question. It's from Dr. Partha Mukhopadhyay. He says that what is the assessment of the domestic economic situation, especially food supplies? There have been recent reports of embassy closures by North Korea. How does that affect the ability of North Koreans to undertake military investments? How far will the Chinese backstop the North Korean regime on the domestic economic issues?
Very important question, sir. Look, if I look at domestic supply situation in North Korea, normally, you need to remember that North Korea is a very topography-wise, a very mountainous country. It's not a plain country, so less than 10% land of North Korea is useful for agriculture. And overall, like when 2013 I had chance to visit, so then I had some data from World Food Program and others, and they told me that normally every year North Korea needs around 6 million tons of food grains, and they can't produce more than, I think, 3 to 4 million tons of food grains. So anyway, they are dependent on outside support. Part of that support comes from UN agency like World Food Program and others. Part of assistance comes through this bilateral channels, like India provided multiple times food grain to North Korea. So it's a structurally there is a problem. Even though through irrigation, through other, you can say, agriculture engineering, they have been trying to improve their productivity and other things, still it's limited. So that's fundamentally a problem in North Korean economy. And since they are not having support, if they would have industrial production, because earlier in Japanese colonial period also, this part of Korea was quite industrialized, quite more than actually southern part of Korea. So all those industry, if they would have been working well, then also there would have been some kind of, say, exchange. They could have been buying, but because of international sanctions, those are also really problematic. Now coming to what can China do, I feel that China is the backbone of North Korea. We like it or not, but they are the backbone of, be it military, let's say, food grains supply, be it fuel supply, and be it some other, you can say, diplomatic support. So even though there have been some gaps in China and North Korea's perception, even though North Korea sometimes they don't listen even to China, but still China has a strong interest in Kim Jong-un and North Korean regime survival, and they have been basically working together. Post-COVID, I think the first border with North Korea started, like, because earlier, like say 2022 itself, they started China and North Korea some, you can say, border exchange. However, for normal tourists like group tourism and other things, they started 2 weeks back, to 2024. So I think China is a very important partner of North Korea. In the Ukraine crisis context, North Korea has also acquired another friend of North Korea. And there are reports that the military satellite which North Korea had in November last year, it was basically held by Russians. And not only that, they have provided something called Wasang 11 GA, 11 modified actually say. Now they have Wasang 11, 12, 15, 17, 18. So 12 is basically a kind of, say, around 300 kilometer around range. So that there are reports that those rockets were provided to Russia by North Korea. So all these they have been doing, but I think my fundamental you can say problem is that when we are saying that US, Japan, South Korea, they have come together, I see that yes, they have come together, but one, we don't know how much they have been, how long they are going to be together, because Japan, South Korea, and there's so many other, Trump comes to power in America. But quite opposite has also happened, that China, North Korea, Russia, and even Iran, they have become much more friendly to each other. They have got more connected to one another. And that's more, so ultimately, whether it's a net gain or net loss, is not easy to tell right now. Thank you.
So we are now approaching 4:30. So thank you very much, Randeep, for a very fascinating talk, which had some new perspectives and nuggets of information for me personally, and I'm sure for all the participants. This pot will continue to boil or simmer, if not boil. And it is not likely that things will be absolutely quiet in Korean Peninsula. So all the Korea watchers will have a lot of attention to pay to that. With these words, I thank all the participants. Thanks, Muskan, for organizing all this, and ICS, and thanks, Professor Mishra, for your very informative and detailed presentation. Thank you. Thanks. I bring it to a close.
Thank you, sir, for giving your permission to formally bring an end to today's session. With this, we conclude the session and express our gratitude to Dr. Mishra and Ambassador Tayal for taking time out of their busy schedules and sharing their time and knowledge with us. Today's video will be accessible on the ICS YouTube platform. We extend a warm invitation to all for the upcoming Wednesday seminar scheduled for 28th February titled Deng Xiaoping's Policy on Border Issues Towards India, Russia, and Japan in Comparison with Mao Zedong and Xi Jinping. Details about the event can be found on the ICS website. You can also